Hey YouTube, Military Gun Guy here. Sorry for the delay, or actually the absence. I've been busy with a number of projects. As you can see, we have a number of wood pieces laid out in front of us. Um, what I'm going to actually, there's going to be three projects in this one. The most complicated is going to be this, which is a broken handguard from a Persian Model 30 cavalry carbine. This one will be in several pieces. You can see where I've started to kind of already try to put it back together. And I'll show you how to basically bring this back into one piece. That's something that's actually usable and workable again. What we're going to be doing is epoxying these two pieces together, and then we're going to be epoxying this not all at the same time, and then we are going to be dressing and finishing. And when this is all done, this will be nice and seamless and will be usable again. The other project is fairly simple. These are Set-Me rifle handguards, also known as the HK made the G3 version, but the Spaniards used the wood version of these. These are original wood. I had to boil these in degreaser, scrub them numerous times, very light sanding. There were some cracks I had to fill on this one, a little bit there and a little bit there. And then I wasn't satisfied with the color. I was still getting some darkness out of it. So what I ended up doing was putting these in wood bleach with hot water. So it gives it the very light, nice light color that will make it perfect for staining. The other project, and this one you'll actually find quite useful, I think, is this is off of a Bulgarian AK74 stock that I picked up, or kit, sorry, that I picked up. This was actually brown painted wood. There were some cracks in here and some missing pieces of wood that I epoxied and kind of dressed up a little bit. So what I'm actually going to be doing, these have already been kind of lightly sanded just to knock down some of the grain. These were boiled extensively. The problem I had is that this piece here was actually still leaching cosmoline quite a bit. You can see even this little seam in here just seems to be just leaching it no matter what I try to do. Windy day. So what I ended up doing, again, when I did the Set-Me handguards, I just let this sit in some wood bleach and hot water for about 10 minutes, and it gave it a nice kind of light color. What I'm looking for is a uniformity of color, because I do have slightly, even though this is laminated and this is supposed to be laminated, you can see some of the lamination there, these are going to be taking stain at a different rate. But the goal is to match them to this red kind of horrible looking plastic handguard looking type of thing. So that's what I'm actually going for. I'm going to get a little more light on this thing so you can see a little bit better. So what I'm going to be doing first off is I'm going to actually be doing these handguards, doing the handguards and then matching the stain on here. And then in the end, what I'm going to be doing is top coating it. It's going to get a nice coat. I'm actually going to be selling this set. I am building my wife an AK74, and excuse me, getting over a cold too. I'm building my wife an AK74. I have a custom set of upper and lower handguards coming in from Ironwood, and a custom pistol grip, all in birch laminate. So when those come in, I'm going to also do an instructional on those. Hers is going to be super custom. I'm making the gun just for her. But this, I want to make it more traditional. But I do want this to look nice. And I want it to look even and uniform. I think that's why they probably painted them in brown, just because brown paint covers pretty much everything. So these have also been boiled. These two pieces were dipped in warm water or hot water and wood bleach. So because I was trying to get the color uniform, so that way when I tie it all together, it'll look good. So what I'm going to be using again is my Phoebing's leather dye. I love this stuff. I'm going for kind of an orangey kind of color. The procedure is the same as on any other videos as I've done. I'm going for this kind of nice color. The Phoebing's is alcohol based, so it will actually cut through any grease or anything that may be left in the wood. And once you top coat, you kind of see this kind of nice, kind of really deep, rich color. Once you top coat with whatever color you choose to put on there, it'll give it a beautiful kind of a deep sort of shine. I go on the inside just for shits and giggles, just because it just makes it look finished all the way around. I could have probably popped this clip out, but I just kind of lazy today. So basically, I'm putting a coat of the feedings, and I'm gonna let it just kind of soak into the wood. Go from there. Now, I'm gonna put same coat on here. Now this one, as you can tell, is going to start taking the stain at a different rate. This is, I don't know what type of laminate this is, to be honest, but it's going to it's going to soak it up a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably end up putting a couple of coats on this. And again, the overall goal of this is uniformity of all of the pieces. So when it's all said and done, it'll look the same no matter what. I want this to look exactly the same when they're put side by side and you see them in the sunlight. And I want that sort of Russian iodine orange, deep, beautiful red color that you see on a lot of the Russian AK47s. So we'll go on the inside. And you just get your swab wet, and just kind of move it around, and then you can let that sit. You may or may not be able to see the color difference. This one is going to be a little splotchier. The wood grain on this is a little tighter, so it's going to take it a little bit differently. But again, we're looking to match this. So if we can get all the pieces to match, that would be perfect. And then this is going to also take stain differently as well. So we're going to do the exact same thing. We're just going to liberally apply the feedings leather dye. We'll let it soak in. I'm selling this with the hardware as well, so it's going to have all the original hardware installed. It's just going to be a nice looking, original looking stock with a modern top coat on, other than shit brown paint. And it'll look like something you'll want to install in your AK. So you're just going to do a nice wet coat of this all over the wood, and go from there. Like I said, these have been degreased. I don't like using the Easy Off. It's a little harsh on the wood, and with the laminate you risk delaminating it. So I went with Purple Power. You can get that in any auto parts store. I put that on a large pot that I use specifically for boiling parts and whatnot. Put that in a large pot, and I just boiled it until all the paint came off and whatnot. The paint actually came off this rather easily and nicely, so it wasn't too bad a prep. This one was actually the worst, but you can also see as the stock, as dry as it is really soaking up the stain. So don't be afraid to go over it a little more. When you're color matching something like this, sometimes you will have to go a tad bit darker. If you don't like the darkness of it, you can always knock it down with some very light, with a scuffing pad if you want to kind of blend, because you may end up finding that this will be nice and light, this will be dark, and then this will be super dark. So, again, going from that uniformity, because you also have to factor in that once you put a top coat, it's going to darken this up also quite a bit. So I'm going to let that dry a little bit and hope it doesn't fall. So you can see this is already soaked in all the stain. It's got that kind of slightly blotchy color, so we're going to give it another coat. And at some point the wood fibers just stop taking stain. If you've watched any of my videos, I don't like using Minwax. There's nothing wrong with it. I just don't like it because the oil carrier tends to stay on top of the wood. Doesn't tend to penetrate as well unless you use another type of penetrant. And it's just, the leather dye is, in my opinion, is just superior, especially for milsurps, just because of its penetrating power and the fact that it's alcohol based. So there's a nice even color there. And if we want to compare it, what we're going to do, whoops, let's knock my camera over. What we're going to do is take my old rag, and then we're just going to wipe this off. And wipe it really, really good. And then basically, we are going to just let this kind of cure and dry a little bit. You will find that certain types of woods are going to absorb stain at a different rate. And where you will run into a problem is sometimes if you don't let the coats dry adequately, you will actually get some splotchiness out of your wood. So you'll either need to bone the stock. You'll either need to bone the stock to get the wood to seal the wood fibers in order to make it work, or you'll need to just keep applying more coats. The problem is with some woods is that you'll end up seeing where some of the end grain is, you'll see these like little black splotches. It looks terrible. Sometimes the only way to fix that is to remove the stain coat a little bit, and then come back and seal it with bone it basically. And I'll show you how to bone wood here in a second. And then reapply the stains, and that will generally do the trick. So we're just going to go up in here so it looks nice and even. And again, once this thing is done, it's going to look actually really, really nice. But again, you can see where this is taking the stain. It's kind of dark. This piece is still a little bit light. So the choice is either to keep applying stain onto this piece, leave this one as is. You can knock it down with scuff. You know, some people have asked what these pins are. These are actually designed to help the laminate. This was not the greatest quality wood. It doesn't mean you can't resurrect this and make this thing look absolutely stunning, but these were actually put in place. You can see there was a piece that had busted out. These were put in place to sort of reinforce the wood because their laminate was probably not the greatest quality, you know, Bulgarian, Romanian, etc. So we're going to let this dry a little bit, and we're pretty close to the color. Adjust this a little bit. We're pretty close to the color that we're looking for. You can kind of see that up there. You know, so next up, I'm going to show you how to bone a stock to seal the wood fibers, and then we'll do a stain on this, and I'll actually show you a video of the finished rifle, and we'll go from there. All right, so stand by. Okay, so our Bulgarian is drying nicely. You can see that our wood tones are pretty similar, and that may be about as good as we're going to get. I could probably put one more coat on this one if I wanted to. But if I'm comparing all three of the pieces, overall I'm actually pretty happy. This one could probably use one more coat. This is the ticket, but it was so dry from all the processes that I put through it that it's literally soaking up all the stain. This one I'm pretty content with. I'm not going to do anything to this. Yeah, this soaked it up nice and evenly, and I think once I put a top coat, a nice deep rich top coat, I think it's going to look perfect. So we're just going to put one more coat of the phoebings on this. And probably call it a day. With the phoebings, you can let it dry for about an hour, and you know, it'll do the job. You know, I've sometimes left stuff overnight, especially something that's this porous because it's been so chemically cleaned. You know, it's been boiled and scrubbed and boiled and scrubbed and lightly sanded, then boiled and scrubbed, and different processes. So I would probably leave this overnight before I put any sort of top coat on it. Just to make sure that everything soaks in, you know. And again, if this looks too dark for you, that's no big deal. You just take this and you're just going to wipe this off real good. And even though, even though it looks darker than you may want it, as the alcohol evaporates off, this will lighten up again. And we'll do a comparison on the inside later on, and I'll show you kind of how it will look. So that's pretty much that. So like I said, just to go over the process again, these were boiled in degreaser. They got all the paint off of them, very lightly sanded just to knock down the high spots. Then any wood that was darker than normal was put into a oxalic acid or wood bleach solution with hot water, and that brings the rest. It kind of actually lightens the wood and bleaches and gets any of the grease out. To where you actually have almost like a perfectly clean surface. Then we put a couple coats of leather dye. We used tan for this one because I kind of want that iodine orange look. I could put an orange on top if I wanted to, but I think the brown, once we put a top coat, will actually kind of pop a little bit more. You can mix the colors, you know, but I'm mainly trying to match this. So if I put too much orange, it's going to look kind of abnormal. So once this is dry overnight, we'll come back tomorrow and I will top coat it, show you how it looks, and we'll go from there. We're going to be using Minwax polyurethane. I usually will hand rub the first couple coats and then I'll actually spray it. I'm probably going to go for a shinier coat on this just because I kind of want to seal some of this laminate, and we'll do a couple scuff coats in between. But I kind of want this thing to, I kind of want to pimp this out just a little bit, so it looks, you know, really nice and rich and kind of elegant on the AK rifle once I sell this. And then we'll start working on this horrible thing, probably like I said tomorrow once you have a little bit better light, and go from there. So anyway, stay tuned for the follow-up on this, and thanks for watching.